I don't know, 2 years. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're watching or listening from. We welcome you. This is Kat Trulinos from Tadaba Cat Living by Design. And I have a very special alumni guest today, Maureen Calamia.
Calamia.
Calamia. It's Italian. Calamia. And welcome. Where's our clapping, Jeff? Where are you, Jeff? Where's our clapping?
You don't hear it?
I was waiting for the audio clapping.
You don't hear it?
No, don't hear it.
Sorry. I'll have to add it on post.
95th episode, alumni, Maureen Calamia, and we're streaming on 7 sites. Plus, you can listen to us on any podcast format. And Maureen comes to us from Long Island. I'm here in Houston, as many of you know, but and Jeff, my Ed McMahon, of course, hosting with me this morning. I'm super excited to talk with Maureen because she's working on a new book, number 1. Number 2, she's offering something really, really special that you're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to try to keep it at about 30 minutes, but she's got a complimentary, like this offer is worth over $1,000. So if you're in business, community, clubs, etc., you're going to want to stay tuned because this is going to make you look wonderful for your peers, colleagues, etc. If you qualify for this offering. So stay tuned for that to hear all the goodness. So Maureen, you are a feng shui master, is that correct?
Well, I would say I'm a practitioner or consultant. I don't like the word master, but
yeah, gotcha. I use mine because I am an accredited staging professional master. I actually, I do have certificates in the basics of feng shui, and I try to utilize feng shui ability, is what I call it. I don't think that's probably a word, right? Feng shui ability in everything that we do, whether it's staging, design, or creating custom wall art, which I want to talk to you about that, as we will talk about that in terms of greenery, feng shui, and I know biophilic is close to your heart as well. So tell the audience how you, why were you drawn to feng shui, to get into feng shui and study it so much?
Well, I felt that when I started reading about feng shui, I saw that there was this wonderful language that I wanted to learn about our connection to the world and the natural world. And feng shui provided this language of talking about qi and yin and yang and the 5 elements and all of that. And I just really loved the concept of how we could learn about that to have greater meaning in our life and have a better, like maybe personal development is a word that a phrase that I would use, but learn more about ourselves. And one of the things that I find is just amazing is that feng shui works in the realm of like symbols and metaphor. So we kind of like look at our homes, look at our spaces, and what is that saying about us? What is that reflecting back to us? Isn't that kind of cool?
That's very cool, and it's so I so resonate with that, Maureen, because when I do an intake for a design client, sure, I can help them prevent color mistakes, painting mistakes, space planning mistakes, but what's so important is, what does the home speak of them? Are they reflected in the home? That personalization, etc. And
exactly.
Do you understand a little bit about energy? Because I was looking for just kind of a simple definition of feng shui, and really into biophilic. Let's stay with feng shui. But do you have a simple, couple sentence description of what feng shui is for people who don't know, maybe?
Okay, well, it's usually translated as life force energy. And that's kind of like, all right, but it's like this ineffable, unknowable source that's in the background. I think, quantum physics is starting to, scientists are starting to kind of label or recognize it as like the ripples of everything in the universe, because nothing is static. Everything is alive with energy.
Yes.
Everything is moving, even
Yes.
though we don't perceive it as moving. So chi is a term that we could use for that aliveness or that vitality.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sure many people have heard chi, but maybe didn't really understand it the way you've explained it, that chi is energy and everything is energy. And I love how you put it that, we may not see it. A rock has energy.
Yes.
A plant has energy. A speck of dust has energy. That just gives me goosebumps, So we perceive, would you say that we, Maureen, perceive this energy, this light force of energy through our human senses? Is that safe to say?
We can definitely perceive it if we slow down, right? It's I like to think of like, the Tao or Taoism talks about chi and this vitality that is within everything. And in order for us to kind of hear it, observe it, we have to be still. And that is obviously not our normal way of being in our modern world. And it is, but I know, and you can see how all these kind of ancient ideas and practices are coming back more now than ever, because we're at this like accelerated pace and frenetic pace in our lives. So more and more people are realizing, I need to balance with these practices of, meditation, but just even being still and not flipping through our phones. It's really being still and being in nature.
Being in nature. And I want to expand upon that when we get into the biophilic phenomena and even, there's even studies that show, well, why is that? Why is it that we feel so connected and our stress is reduced and we feel source more? Because I guess for me, it doesn't get any closer than being in nature, even faux nature. We use a lot of faux greenery in. I try to use real in my home, but in staging and design, and studies have shown biophilic, which is preserved, as well as faux, can induce the same reduced stress, lower blood pressure, lower heart rate, just by our connection, our thought of what that is, that nature. Would you agree or want to expound on that?
Yeah, I mean, I go a little deeper than they do in their studies, but I feel like, I have real nature surrounding me. As you can see, I have a plant back here. There's the chi or the life force energy of these. And this plant is interacting with my energy field. And it is entraining me, like in a way, to be calmer, because it just exudes a lower frequency. So, like they talk about how, the planet, the earth, it vibrates at a particular hertz. It has sound, it has this energy, and we evolved over millions of years immersed in this natural world. So we naturally are in sync with that frequency of the earth. But technology, and of course, like I said, the frenetic pace of our modern lives takes us out of it. So when we put ourselves back into nature, even just having some plants around helps. But of course, more so is getting out into trees. I mean, trees have just like big energy fields. So, that's the whole practice of like forest bathing, and all the research about that, like things
I'm sorry, about what kind of bathing? I didn't hear that. What kind of bathing?
Forest bathing.
Oh, forest bathing. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, powerful.
Yeah, extremely powerful because there's no separation between us and nature. So we're immersed in this beautiful field of energy that really helps restore us back to that lower level, calmer, more harmonious frequency.
Absolutely.
And that's why it works.
I love it. So this is a very kind of pragmatic and I know what probably, some of the common answers would be, but looking for your expertise on, we are so immersed in technology today, and not just millennials and teens with the devices, but running businesses, et cetera. I mean, it's a small computer that we're taking around everywhere. That, of course, with the EMFs of all the devices. I have 2 Wi-Fis in my home alone to do this. Besides putting down the device, what is something that you've come across maybe in your, I call it, corrective feng shui. I use that term with, corrective design, corrective staging. I don't think there's anything that's perfect, and we're not going to certainly throw out our devices any day soon.
Right.
But let's just say 3, what would be your 3 best suggestions to help to mitigate or correct or diffuse that the electrical. And I want to say something real brief. We had a power outage a week or so ago, and I never realized, Maureen, how loud, because my office backs up to the kitchen, how loud the refrigerator was. Like I heard this clunk and it was off, and I'm like, all the humming was gone. I'm sure some of it was Wi-Fi and light bulbs and this and that, but the biggest thing was the refrigerator. So help us on that. How can we correct that or minimize it?
Well, I mean, like we were just saying, plants really do help. And as a rule of thumb, I say put 1 plant for every electronic device in your home office. So if you count up the different devices, at least have 1 per. That will help create a calmer frequency in your home office.
I like that.
And I mean, just in general, the other thing is just go out into nature and try to put yourself away from the box, like the circuit box in your home, or, don't have maybe the circuit box like right behind your desk. Try to position yourself so you're not like directly, or the refrigerator directly on the other side of your wall from where you're sitting. Because
I can't stop that. Fortunately, there's a big bookcase with glass doors and things in it, so that mitigates it.
Definitely. Yeah. So, and then, try not to sit like right next to the modem and things like that. So those, so it's really kind of avoidance as much as possible, but mitigating with plants.
Okay. What is your thinking on, I had a friend of mine who's a nutritionist practitioner, and she suggests that you wear the blue light glasses. What's your thought on that?
Oh, well, that is talking about our exposure to the bright white lights at night.
Yeah.
If we're on our phone or our Kindle or our computer later at night, that bright white light can trigger, it counteracts our normal circadian rhythm, which puts us into sleep mode later at night because the lights start getting softer and dimmer, right, in our home.
Okay.
But when we're on that bright white light, it's kind of hard to trigger our natural system. So then it could keep us awake. Some people, it doesn't bother them, like having coffee right before bed. I can't do that.
Yeah, the lights don't bother me either, but I'm sure some people, I have a friend who's very sensitive to EMFs and lights and all that and takes great precaution. So I guess, everybody's different.
Yeah. So if you want to be on those devices, the blue light glasses, I've never seen them, but I've heard of them. They could work. But there's also, I think, in many of our phones, kind of like a nighttime mode. So it becomes more like yellowy, the background, so it's not as bright. So you can make sure that that's on in your settings.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I never think about that. Yeah, turn it on the dimmer mode if you're having to work on your phone.
Yeah, it's something, I forget what it's called on the different phones, but it will kind of it will do that automatically, at a certain time of the day.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that, Maureen. I
Sure.
want to ask you, let's go to your clients, and what intrigues you most when you're working with clients? If you can give us like a couple of your favorite examples.
Well, what I love about working with different people is their experience in their home and kind of getting into like what's going on in their lives and how is that reflecting in their spaces, not just their spaces, but on their property, if they have property around their home. And I just find so often this connection in a metaphorical or symbolic way. It's not obviously, direct. It's kind of an indirect connection that most people wouldn't get. And, say, for instance, I had a client who asked me to come about romance and relationship. And when I looked at the outline of the property, the way the property was, it wasn't a square or rectangle. It had this weird angle. That kind of, it was slanted in the back of their property. There was just this weird angle. So, of course, I was reflecting using one of our tools called the Bagua map. And when I looked at the property with the Bagua map, I saw that the romance area was cut off. And it's not, people might go, oh, so, moving there, all of a sudden it's going to cause a problem in romance. And it's not the case. It's really merely a reflection of what the energy already was. So they were attracted to that property and they started having some challenges with marriage. So, it was more of a reflection of the energy that they were in. Things like that. I just find so amazing how.
Yes, everything is by divine creation, isn't it? Yeah, you're just you're just connecting the dots, as a practitioner looking, going, So how did you, in that particular case, without becoming a marriage counselor or sending them to a hypnotherapist or having them get a divorce or whatever, was there anything practical besides moving that they could do to kind of quell that reflection and possibly have an energetic movement in the other direction?
I think it's kind of like twofold. I think just bringing to light this connection and, having them become more aware of this metaphor that's going on, they can start going, oh, wow. It kind of like the light bulb goes off. And, it all gets down to what we talked about in the beginning. It's life force energy. It's chi. And so then I recommend something usually physical that we do in that space. So it could be along that line. We'll pick a place. I'll definitely ask my clients to kind of figure out where they want to do this, but we could put maybe a beautiful statue that represents their love for each other. And whatever that is, whatever that's meaningful for them. And then we place it there.
Oh, I love that.
Another thing that we've done is like bury quartz crystal points, and I don't have any on my desk right now. Well, this is a lot.
Yes, I've got one. Right here. We love to.
Yeah. So you bury them in the ground in a certain way, and imagine with intention this beautiful wall of light and activating this area that is kind of missing. So I think it's always a twofold process. It's sharing the information with the client so that they can see this pattern, and then giving them something to put their intention in, and then hopefully things will work out. Maybe things aren't meant to. So it's never a given that, okay, now their marriage is going to be great. No, it depends on what's really inside of them and what really needs to happen.
Something that you brought up, though, that I think it's worth reiterating, and that is that they maybe were not aware. Let's take the sheet off and become aware, and that's the first step to any kind of realignment or connection or change. Is you have to know what it is. So that could be really, depending on the client, that could be the first time that they were actually on a conscious level. And then I like how you do something physical to then focus your intention, because if you believe, as I do, that thoughts become things, those intentions can certainly change energy and change mass and change the situation. So like you said, it has to be both parties wanting it and both putting out that energetic field to make it happen. But it definitely, I think that's definitely a fabulous formula. We're moving at about 22 minutes, but do you have a short example of maybe one more client that kind of, or situation with your clients that intrigued you? And then we're going to move on to a book that you're working on that I'm excited to share.
Okay, sure. Let's see here. This is a little different. I do work at the unseen level using dowsing rods, and they're tools that I use on a map. So this is really an extension of feng shui. It's not feng shui, but it gets to the same thing. It gets to the metaphor of patterns in our spaces. So this client had a lot of trouble trying to sell a house. And people were not bidding on it, and people were not putting any deal folks.
Yeah.
So she hired me to see what was going on. And when I dowsed the property on my map, I saw that there were these two real big, what we call negative energy lines that were right at the front door. So I showed her the floor plan. I showed her these lines, and we just kind of talked about it. And she says, well, that's really funny, because it's like nobody's even hardly coming to the house or coming into the house. So we cleared it together in a ceremony. She contacted me a few days later and said, you won't believe it. She's like, but we just got an offer. And what happened was the same realtor came back with this couple that was interested a few months prior. He came to the house. He had the code to get into the house, but he couldn't get in. He could not get in, so he couldn't show it. And right after I cleared it, it happened to be that couple came back and they said, well, let me just try this again. And they were able to get in, and they put an offer on the house.
So isn't that something? So, Maureen, I have to ask you, was the home staged?
I don't know.
Because they were living in it, right? So it's hard to tell sometimes.
I don't know, but it's
good from a feng shui standpoint.
I'm sorry?
But it looked good in terms of space planning and feng shui ability inside the home.
It was a little bit it was a modern house that had a really kind of funky layout. So definitely was different. It wasn't kind of
the right buyer.
A traditional type of, it had to be somebody that was into a little bit different. However, it was just merely this negative energy at the front door that was blocking them from entering. That was just incredible.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that story. Because so many people, today anymore, as you had mentioned, we're in a time with an accelerated, I think, hunger and thirst for enlightenment, for transformation. And people are looking at things where maybe even 5 years ago or less than 5 years, it would be what Jeff and I like to call woo-woo. It's not woo-woo, and I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love how he takes the woo-woo, what would have been woo-woo, and has the scientific, the brain scans, the science behind it, which I really resonate with, because I'm very analytical and creative at the same time. I'm not going to just blindly, follow something that I don't have science behind it. And there's so much science behind everything that you do, everything about energy, feng shui, the story about the house, and incredible. More people need to know about that. So let's take the next few minutes and let's talk about a new book that you're working on. It's The Enchanted Earth, The Power of Nature to Transform And tell us about this. Is this an extension of feng shui? What inspired you to write it, and kind of what is the book about in a nutshell?
Yeah, it is definitely extension of where I've been going with my work with feng shui and with my dowsing and earth energy healing. And it is all about our connection to the natural world. But what I found, so I was inspired to do this during COVID. I know so many people were inspired to write during COVID, but
that's the silver lining.
I had this idea though 10 years ago.
Sure.
And I realized I just got this like download from an oak tree that I was sitting under that it was time to do this. And I was just like, okay. So what I did was I reached out to people that I really admired, from authors to people I knew personally that did some kind of work in nature. And I interviewed them about an experience that was very moving to them in nature. And I got some amazing stories that I wrote up, and that's what the book is, and it includes some of my own stories. But what I found was so many of these people I interviewed said, I never really told anybody about this before. And I was just shocked. I was just like, this is such a beautiful story that brings to life our connection to nature. And it moved me. It's going to move so many people. And it is such a sin that these stories are kind of just locked up within many of us. And I even realized there were some of my own stories that I never really considered and really thought about until I started writing this book. And I went, there's something here. There's really this magical, mysterious connection to nature that helps not only us feel better, but it is moving, and it gives us a sense of purpose often. It gives us a sense of where we're heading in our own individual lives, like what our mission is here.
Awesome. That's beautiful. When do you, I'm excited to buy the book. When do you think you'll be putting it up, launching it?
I am practical because I've published before, of course.
Right.
I know it probably won't be out there until 2025.
2025.
But
okay.
It's nearly done, and I'm just roaring to get it published and out there. So
Awesome. 2025. So, and you're realistic. It does take time, doesn't it? I was working on a book before Miracles Online, and that was a book about grandmothers, really. I'm affectionately a glamma. So we're kind of toying around with the title. My granddaughter, who thinks that, Calamia and Popeye are the wisest people in the world. So it was going to be something, maybe, Glama's truth bombs or something like that. But I really wanted it to be stories from Gigi's, Glama's, Gaga's from around the world. And it took a back seat, of course, to Miracles Online, because number one, corroboration, that takes so much time, right? You're getting these stories, you have to edit them. It's a lot more work than you just sitting down.
Well, I actually wrote the stories and they edited if they needed to. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I already learned something from you as an experienced author. That's a great idea. Yeah, because I've received stories. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start over. Yeah, because this probably just isn't going to work, to be published. So is it The Enchanted Earth, right?
Yes.
So we want to be on the lookout. Please reach out to me so that we can have you back.
Oh, thank you.
To talk about your new book, and absolutely. So I received an email from you, and this is what kind of reconnected me to you, is you offering a keynote speaker at no charge. They just have to allow you to be recorded, for marketing, etc. Talking about feng shui. I'm assuming, what would the topics be?
Actually, no, about this topic, about our stories of connection to nature. And what my outcome or goals for the talk would be to inspire people to recall perhaps an experience that they've had that they want to, start reflecting on, and what could that experience have really meant for them. And perhaps give them a little bit more of understanding of direction. But more than anything, it's to make them realize that we are so much bigger than we tend to think of ourselves, not in an egoic way, but in an expansive, connected to all.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have our own individual purposes, right? So we have to work both expansively and individually. And then another goal of this talks are to give people some actual techniques and tools to help them uncover that connection for themselves.
Love it. So is this, are these speaking engagements offered to, I would assume, to Long Island, where you're from? Or are you also offering, like, if someone wants to do a Zoom or something like that?
Well, the New York metro area.
Okay.
As an in person, and then of course Zooms, I can do that, and I'm limiting it to like 2 or 3 engagements for free.
Yeah. And so after that, what is your fee if someone doesn't make the cutoff?
It depends on a lot of things, but at least 1,500 or more, depending on the event, where it is,
the event,
the length of the session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's going to be before your book comes out, obviously, because this year, we're in 2024. And so before we sign off, we're right at about 33, 34 minutes. I want to put a plug for Maureen's previous book, and that is Creating Luminous Spaces, right here. Let's see, maybe they can't see me. Let me get back on here. Okay, Creating Luminous Spaces. My dog really liked it and approved it, and ate a corner out, one of my 4 fur babies, but I still read it. I couldn't find the piece, so I couldn't patch it. Awesome book if you're looking for just an easy but detailed read on the elements, what they each mean, case stories, etc. And in the book, as well as, can you purchase the book on your website, Maureen?
Actually, they can purchase a signed copy of my book
on
my website.
I didn't know that. I would have done that.
I actually just put that up a couple of months ago, but of course it's available where all books are sold online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, etc.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, and Maureen and I were talking pre-show, is that there's a really cool questionnaire that you answer, honestly on all kinds of categories. And it ends up, remind me of doing the old Cosmo things. But it ends up telling you, are you, like I'm wood and fire. I think Maureen and I both are wood and fire at the highest. And then just a few points lower are the rest. And then there's a complete definition on, what those attributes are for each. So Maureen has on her website, you can download that. Pick up her book as well. You'll want to get the book as a companion. But if you'd like to dive right in and do the questionnaire, what is your website, Maureen, where they can get that?
Sure. It's luminous-spaces.com.
That's LUMINO.
Yeah, just like the reading, the title of the book, Luminous.
Yep, right here.
And then there's a dash spaces.com.
Spaces.com. So if someone wanted to call you, they're in your area, or maybe they want, an audio or virtual consultation, what's the best phone number to reach you, Maureen?
Sure, 631-513-0059.
0059. Perfect. So much good information as usual. I can't wait to have you back. Hopefully at the end of this year, maybe pre-launch for your new book.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much, Kat.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we have a new sign off for 2024, and it is love more, if I can remember it, love more, give more, and be more in 2024. Go out and have a great weekend and share this podcast, or if it's streaming, with someone who would like to up-level their spaces and get an education on feng shui. Have a beautiful weekend, everybody. Bye.